Alright, what we have here is two turbos. On the left is a stock 89 Turbo 2 turbo, and on the right is a stock VNT turbo that could have come on an 89 CSX or a 90 VNT LeBaron Daytona or Shadow. Let's go ahead and look at these a little bit more in depth here. You can see on the left, the turbine housing actually looks significantly smaller on the left. Same size outlet for that swing valve though. This one does have a wastegate actuator on top. That is the wastegate up here on top of this turbo. So there's the wastegate actuator, internally wastegated of course. Also notice another difference is the way that the drain tube is just kind of straight there as far as straight down to the oil pan. Over here on this one, you've got this nipple on the drain tube, and that actually takes the oil and gunk out of the air box and drains it into the oil pan. A lot of guys have got comments both ways on that feature, and I think they actually went to that on the Mitsu turbos too later on. Up here, this is not a wastegate actuator. This right here actuates the vanes on this turbo. So that actuates the vanes. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Again, 2.5 inch outlet here. So pretty well the same setup. You can note that the elbow coming off this very harsh 90-degree turn, which is actually for the best because it very much flows poorly, which is what you need for these VNT turbos. Looks like a much larger turbine housing here. When we go ahead and pull out and look at both of them, obviously this turbine housing looks way larger, but as we'll see as we tear these things down, that's not really the case. Alright, here we have a comparison of the swing valve housings. You can see the one on the left for the T2 turbo has got the puck for the wastegate actuator, and on the right, nothing doing because that is not wastegated at all. Still the same size here, but again you can tell the flow just isn't happening there versus there. You can see not a lot doing for flow. So whatever, again, good for the VNT to not be able to flow well right there, but I should also point out that on the VNT you do have a standard 4-bolt style flange, so this theoretically would bolt up to a T3 turbo, but like a Ford pattern with a 4-bolt flange, but it'll make it point towards the block more, so you need a custom down pipe. Alright, a little bit more of a direct comparison here of the hot sides. Again, you can clearly tell that the VNT's got a significantly larger turbine side. We'll see that again in a moment, but from the look of it here, it's about the same. When you go to the entry, I'm not sure how well this will show up, but that's what it looks like in the Turbo 2 housing. That's what you're looking like in the VNT housing. Not sure how well you can see that, but either way, visually about the same thing going on there. So a good time. Alright, again, quite a difference in size in those turbine housings. It really looks like that VNT turbo's got a lot larger hot side than the Turbo 2 turbo. However, I'm not sure how well it shows up on camera here, but when I measured the bore of the Turbo 2 turbo versus the VNT turbo, and I was surprised it was only this much difference. It was about a 15 thousandths difference, crudely measured of course with just a pair of Chinese dial calipers. Alright, we should be looking at roughly the same inlet and outlet diameter on these turbos here. 2.5 inch inlet for the ID on your inlet and a 2-inch ID on your outlet of the turbo. But what a difference in compressor size on these two turbos right here. Holy cow, these compressor covers are like night and day. This dinky little thing is not going to get the job done ever. And you can see that little baby wheel in there. And even, of course, this Turbo 2 turbo, that's not anything to write home about in the size department. For anybody watching this who's not very familiar, you're talking the turbo on the left is good for pushing it as absolutely hard as you can way outside of the map, about 280 horsepower to the wheels. I mean, but insanely out of the map. Realistically, 225, 250 horsepower, you're overspinning it already, and you're in a situation where you will go through them pretty quickly because they're just not meant to spin that fast. Just for the sake of comparison, that's a T04E cover on the very left here, which came on CSX VNT number 497 when I got it. A lot of custom work to kind of oddly adapt the VNT setup with this external wastegate, not VNT'd of course, just external wastegate on this. But again, I believe that's a 60-to-1 wheel in there, so obviously you can see the difference between these three turbos is colossal. Colossal difference. Over there on the left, you're talking 400 to 500 horsepower. In the middle, realistically, 225 to 250. And on the right, 200 wheel horsepower would be really cooking along in a VNT. Standard T2 turbo on the left, VNT turbo on the right. Crazy that the one on the left flows so much more than the one on the right. Let's see if we can show this. If you look in here, you can see right there we start the ability for the flow to touch the wheel, and in here, let's see if we can get that going. Yeah, see how much farther back that area starts? It starts way back here, so right at the flange almost, and here you've got to get this turbo spooled up with only the exhaust gas being introduced here. T2 on the left and the VNT on the right. You can see the colossal difference in the size of these two wheels. I mean, just look at that. Not only in the height of the wheel, but the diameter too. Absolutely a huge difference in the size of these two wheels. I'd measure, but I don't think I'd get an accurate measurement of the inducer diameter on the VNT because there's not much left of most of the inducer diameter. But definitely way smaller. I mean, I don't even know how I'd rate that. Maybe 2/3 the size. So we can see why the VNT spools up so rapidly in addition to the VNT nature of it. This is actually, I'd say, more a reason why with this restriction, this is probably more a reason why it overboosts if you do anything to it exhaust wise or anything really to increase the flow for the most part. All right, one last comparison here, and that is between the compressor wheels. As you can obviously see, that Turbo 2 wheel way larger than the VNT wheel. If you guys have any more questions or you'd like to see anything, just go ahead and post up. Let me know in the comments down below, and we'll see what we can get you guys going here. I've got a stack of turbos, so if you want to see any comparisons, get any measurements, again, just let me know. Thanks a ton for watching, guys. I appreciate it.